The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian, Miss Berlin, and Mr. Betcher for Bringing Down Security.
Hey, hey.
How goes it?
Done already?
No, we're not done yet already. I screwed up and didn't turn the timer on, so now we're okay.
Fastest podcast ever.
Bestest podcast ever. So how's everybody been? Mr. Berlin, Mr. Betcher, how you doing? I'll start with Mr. Betcher because Miss Berlin's drinking something.
Good.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
No problems?
Yeah.
All right.
No problems so far. We haven't gotten sick with the
Very
coof.
nice. Very nice.
We're doing good.
Now,
So
your
far, so
wife,
good.
your wife's a pharmacist. Is she, is she considered a frontline worker? Can she go ahead and get the vaccine?
I think she can, but right now, they're basically vaccinating. They get a vaccine box of it probably every couple of weeks.
Okay.
And so they have healthcare workers call in and make appointments and stuff.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
pretty soon, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but pretty soon the second dose will be coming up. So those
Right.
take priority over the first doses. So
Okay. All right.
that
Cool.
1 million doses, I guess they manufacture 1 million doses a day.
Wow.
And but then a lot of those are now having to go to the second
Right.
treatment.
Right. Okay. Miss Berlin, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Okay. So I'm going to bring our interview in, but I have a question for you, Miss Berlin, as well. So our interview this week, we were supposed to have the person doing the Elasticsearch stuff, talking about creating dashboards and whatever. And then he got back to me and said, hey, my wife would like to go out of town for the weekend, and can we reschedule? So I was like, yes, we can do it next weekend. He's like, okay, cool. So he'll be on next week for those of you looking for the Elasticsearch discussion. There it is. The next person I thought of, because I was like, I would really like a good, interview to start out 2021 here. And I thought back in my brain about,
And the person that we wanted wasn't available. So instead.
Oh, no.
How dare you?
Oh,
How dare you?
Oh, so what you're hearing is the dulcet tones of Danny Akacki, who is Rando on Twitter. Maybe you know him.
No, nobody knows me.
Yes. So you had worked at a previous organization that was based out of Seattle, and you came up and we had lunch one day.
It was lovely.
We went to a place called Scariaki that we call Scariaki near our office in downtown Seattle. Actually, I enjoyed the teriyaki that's there, but other folks at my office are a bit of food hipsters. But we started talking, and you had mentioned that you had gone through several M&As or mergers and acquisitions, and I was like, oh yeah, we should definitely do a podcast about that. And
so
2
long
years
ago,
later, 2 years later, nothing had happened, and I was like, oh shit, I should probably do that. So I reached out to Danny. I was like, hey, let's do the mergers and acquisitions podcast. Because everybody's getting mergered and acquisitioned. We've heard stories about companies where it's gone sideways or where it's gone right. Companies worried about, what's happening to them, or, companies who are like, we don't give a shit. We're just going to take your IP and lay you all off. I won't mention any names, but you can go and Google for IP that has been taken by a company and then they laid off everybody. But Danny has gone through several of these in
Yes.
different forms, and welcome to the show.
I am so excited, not counting when you came on my charity stream. It's been about 3 years since I've been on Brakesec. I came on when I first moved into the house that I'm still in. And
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, A, time flies, but B, I couldn't be more excited. I love you guys.
Wait, Amanda, Danny's got your DEF CON goon flag back there.
That was given to me by No Hack Me. No Hack Me gave me one of his goon flags because I am
Very
a
nice.
DEF CON security goon.
Mine is around here somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. Oh,
Pride,
okay. So
pride and joy.
There's more than one. Okay.
Yeah. Goon's got them 1 year for like our gift or something.
That's nice. I hope Vegas, I hope Hacker Summer Camp will have an opportunity to run in some way and not meet space, but we'll see.
I am confident that it will not. Now, I don't know anything. Nobody told me anything, but my gut says not this year, but that it'll be back next year. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with by June or August, I don't see enough people having the vaccine. So that's fine. We figured it out last year.
They have to make a call in April.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. Like March or April, something like that.
Yeah. One of my nonprofit officers, Wendy Knox Everett, is B-Sides organizer, B-Sides Las Vegas organizer, and they're making theirs in about mid-April. So our conference, Infosec Camp Out, is in the end of August, and it's outside. So I'm hoping that by the end of August, we'll be able to potentially do something. But again, it's going to be up to whatever is going on here in the Seattle, King County area. We may end up doing something virtual anyway. So we're going to see what's happening. So cool. All right. So Ms. Berlin, somebody on our Slack had asked about Sigma rules. I don't know if you know anything about that, but somebody had asked about, creating, a tutorial for Sigma rules, and I gave them a link, but just a little bit of housekeeping there. If you know anything about how to make those or generate those,
cool beans.
Feel free to reach out, or, if somebody's listening and they're like, yeah, those are really easy, join our Slack and come in and join the conversation about that. So it's in our Blue Team channel. So
there's a converter actually that I can paste in there that lets you convert from different standards.
Very nice. Okay. So yeah, Blue Team channel's got it. So we'll tell you how to get into the Slack a little later on. So Danny, tell us about the journey, how you got yourself here, your superhero origin story, why we're having you on, etc.
Oh man, it could be so long. I've given a couple talks on it about just journey through security and things, and I have had a apparently semi-interesting one, as in I made a remark earlier of long story short, about 30% of my salary over 10 years has been made up of severance. So ouch. I have seen, not ouch, man. Like I probably got paid quite a few extra dollars from that getting paid to go away. At first it was ouch. Now I'm like, are we getting acquired? Raise my hand for severance. Like I'll be all right. I have seen it multiple times. I've been a part of it. I've been affected by it every time. And it has gotten easier as I get more established in my career. I worry less about it. People who are brand new will obviously panic and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I've been a part of helping it happen, and assisting those transitions, and then also knowing that I won't be affected at all and watching people get affected. So yeah, I've been on the front lines of it, man. It's right. Yeah, it is a wide topic.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to mention before we get started is that every M&A is different. Every M&A is like a precious snowflake in terms of uniqueness. One company acquiring another company or vice versa. There are different headaches, different scenarios, different leadership. So our experiences here may not necessarily be what you may face or have faced. So we do appreciate any feedback if you'd like to mention it on our Slack or our Twitter. But yeah, we'd love to hear some horror stories, or, hey, ours wasn't so awful. Here's, some things we learned, or, might be helpful, or, hey, I was at a startup that got picked up by, insert big company here, and this is how it went. Or, I got completely, laid off, or, taken advantage of, or the stock tanked after that, or just whatever. So we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the things that you should look for, some of the things you should be thinking about when your company is acquiring somebody, and then the next bit is going to be, oh no, we've been acquired. So Danny, so let's talk about from the end point of, okay, I'm a company that is acquiring an organization. From an operational and like a tactical, like a smaller inside point of view, tell us a story about that.
Right. So actually my very first one had nothing to do with security whatsoever. This was before I ever discovered information security. I did IT for like 10 or 12 years. And the very last IT job I had was in the networking realm, configuring routers, switches, that kind of thing. And I actually so I'd worked for this law school for about 5 years, cutting my teeth, and then I started working for a local bank, and I worked in their networking department as one of their senior whatever. The reason they had hired me is because they had just acquired another bank out near Philadelphia. And I happened to, and the acquiring bank was in Harrisburg, and I lived in this is all in Pennsylvania, and I lived right in the middle of those two cities. So now they wouldn't have to send somebody out there 3 hours. I was right in the middle. I just drive an hour and that's fine. So I came right in the beginning of the acquisition. Like the ink was still wet, like no equipment had changed hands, nothing had really happened. So I got to see a bunch of that planning. I got to see a bunch of that like logistical things as it trickled down from leadership, and all the legal things were taken care of. Now it's time to put rubber to the road and say, now we have to integrate all of these systems, right? And you have two disparate banking systems. So, and if you hear snoring in the background, it's not me. It is my 13-year-old beagle, who apparently is very healthy. You wouldn't know it from the snoring.
I just assumed it was Miss Berlin, but
yeah, she's like, she gets all excited by like M&A talk. She's like, yes, acquisition.
How'd you know?
So it is, then it becomes, all right, now we see, we take into consideration of what systems are they running? Like, what are we running? How are we going to make these things talk to each other? Who does what? Who's redundant? Like, especially in finance, you will always have redundancy in any aspect of finance. So then you have to get to know your counterparts. And if you're the conquerors, that becomes a lot easier because you don't have to really worry about anything. Very, very blanket statement. But yeah, I got a chance to see all of that. I got a chance to see like, timetables and see them get adjusted, see them pushed up, see them pushed back. And then I was legitimately literally in the middle, because I remember it stressed a whole bunch of things about systems going down in the middle of the night. And of course, call Danny. He's the one in the middle. Go send him. And then I have to know their systems intimately. And I know nothing about financial systems at that point, but now I've got to learn. So yeah, there's a bunch of considerations, and it's constant. There's always something new. There's always something you didn't foresee, you didn't think of, that's going to pop up, because the most important thing about these things is that the business is still running through all of this. It doesn't stop. It doesn't say, hey, time out. We got to like join everything together. So how do you keep that running and keep the lights on and try to make this as seamless as possible?
So I guess the first thing that, you had to look at was, for the acquiring company, being, bringing them in was the trash, so to speak, their network, finding the skeletons that you have to worry about, because you've got your own anchors and stuff in your own environment, and now you're taking on yet another company's detritus or technical debt or whatever it is you want to call it. If they're software, you're looking at dealing with their customers as well. And this is all before it's formally announced, I would imagine. There is a period where M&A is occurring and they haven't been told, or people haven't been told. So how did the communications get handled at the first one that you went to? Was it a positive thing, or was it the CEO saying, well, this is a good thing for us, and being acquired by Umpty Squat Incorporated or whatever? How was the communication there?
So for that one, I do remember it, and again, this is back in 2009, like 2009, so quite a bit ago. I do remember it being a mixed bag. I remember, of course, as the conquerors, right? We were all like, this is amazing. We're growing, everybody's family, and blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, since I'm one of the only ones that actually gets to go to these other locations, these other branches, then you see like these people are unsure, or they're maybe a little bit angry because like we were the upstart, right? And this bank was very well established. It was still very much local in the greater like Philly suburbs, but they'd been around for 200 years. They've been around for a very long time. So now you're not only fighting against, you don't know what their tech is like, but that culture too. I can tell you, in the main line in Philly is one of the richest parts of the entire country, and there are definite cultural things to take into account of like, who are you? Like, we never even heard of your bank, and then they're embarrassed that they failed, or they embarrassed that they had to get bailed out. Like, this wasn't like a mutual thing; they were in trouble. That's why we bought them. There are mutual things like startups where that's the natural course of things, and like in tech, and you build to be bought. Right? I don't care who you are, you build to be bought. In finance, it's very much like, the conquering pirates, and that can cause a lot of friction. So we were very jovial. I mean, our leadership was jovial. The other leadership was not, and they were a little combative, and the employees were a little combative. And then some employees knew that their leadership was complete crap, and that's why this happened to them. I think a few of them went to jail.
Wow.
Yeah, because they failed because their money was missing, or like things weren't being run right, and things like, or at least there were charges or something like that were kind of buried or whatever. So there are all types of reasons for these things to happen, and you hear all of them, and you hear all the conjecture and things like that. And again, you still gotta like go and do your thing and fight around it. And that's how I really learned to be really good at being face to face with people, being really good having to speak to all levels of power, right? So there's another consideration too, especially if you're on the front line, especially if you're in tech, if you're in security, if now you are responsible for securing two disparate ecosystems, is you're going to be talking to not only the hands-on keyboard front line, you're also going to have to coordinate with their leadership, and you're going to have to tell them why their baby is ugly and how ugly their baby is. Yours might not be that much better looking, but it's got one less, it's got both ears. The other one's missing one. So uglier.
And not only are you somebody new, they might not really want you there anyway.
Right. They might, and now they're wondering about their jobs and vice versa. So I in a lot of ways, I am thankful that the first one was a bit more on the acrimonious side, because it prepared me for other ones down the road. And as nervous as I got when I was affected by them too. And then there's a whole other side to the story that shortly thereafter, we only acquired this bank because we wanted to get acquired. So we went from being conquered, or from conquerors to being conquered. And it was scorched earth for us. And that's actually what led me to security, because I knew I was dead. So I had to go do something else. But yeah, so I saw both of these sides in a very short period of time. It was very much M&A whiplash for me.
That's crazy. Okay.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's insane, and that set the tone for, turns out, my security career too. So there's a theme apparently.
Nice.
You just have a knack for picking.
I am a punching bag.
Yeah.
So wherever Danny works, we know is going to be either acquired or going to conquer and acquire folks.
Yeah, who's gonna acquire your current?
No, everything is fine. I know nothing.
He's the Alex Stamos of mergers
I do not
and
speak
acquisition
for anybody except myself.
Yeah.
So I've been a part of a lot of acquisitions, and I see the acquiring company say, we bought you, we own you, you will do what we say. Okay. And it's for both of our best interests if you just do this. And then I've seen them go like, okay, we're going to work with you, whatever you think's best. Let's try to get these goals accomplished. And then I've seen the acquiree push back a lot. They think they're special, and they have their world built that they think is great, and they don't want to change. And then I've seen them where they say, oh, wow, this is cool. We can have access to all these great tools that you have, and these licenses that you have, right? Oh, we get this software for free. Essentially, it's, funny money. This is great. I've seen all of that. Do you find that one method works better? Like, you will do what we say. You need to transition as quickly as possible because we don't want a security issue come up. We investigated your security
Sure.
and it's crap, and you got to do this now.
I rarely see the whole you will assimilate Borg method go over well. Does it still happen? Absolutely. It's you will definitely, who does it pretty well, obviously, like they can really sugarcoat the stab wounds is I don't know, can we talk shit on certain companies?
I mean,
depends on the company.
At your own risk.
Okay,
right.
no.
Yeah.
All right.
No, we have a disclaimer, but yeah, probably we'll just a certain technology company or something.
Yeah,
like that.
a certain technology company, Schmamazon, will this certain company came through to the company that I was at and like just really poured the sugar on, but they did it forcefully. Like, take the sugar, like make it go down. We're gonna be nice, but do as we say. They're very
You will
good.
wear the ribbon.
Yeah. So, but no, to answer your question, I rarely see the whole screw you, do what we say, go well. But then on the other hand, you see these things enough and you see that those kind of platitudes that they come out, hey, we're all one big family now, and this isn't an acquisition, this is a merger, and blah blah blah. And we're like, nah, bro, like we know. Come on. And and then that's just the thing that they do. This is the spiel, this is the dance, this is the M&A mating dance, and I've seen it 100 times. But no, I've definitely seen it go wrong, and I've seen it applied poorly. That rarely. So if you are part of this, if you are part of whatever these teams are that do the actual M&As and part of leadership, I get that the upper echelons have to do these things, right? Because there's lawyers involved, there's money involved, there's very publicly traded things involved. But if you are listening to this as a middle manager, if you are listening to this as somebody who this information trickles down to, just level with your teams, right? Level with them. Like, you will get the raw version. It's your job to distill it down to your teams. Be honest with them. Just say, hey, listen, here's what's happening. This is good. This is bad. Maybe polish your resume in so many words. I mean, there's ways to do that.
Right. So
have you seen any like overarching themes when it comes to all of them?
Yes, the first overarching theme is that everything is great. This is a good thing, regardless of what the situation is. That is the like, no matter how acrimonious the layers below were of like, I hate these people, or blah blah blah, this sucks, or whatever. There is always a pleasant face on it, right? Like when Amazon acquired ours, it was a big thing that everybody got offers, nobody got let go. Like that was a huge thing that that was like a charm offensive. And like, that's well and good, but talk to me 60 days from now, talk to me 90 days from now. So the overarching theme is that they will never go negative. I mean, and that's to be expected. Like, nobody's going to come in as a conquering company and is like, man, you guys are all dead. We are going to ruin lives. Everybody bend over. No, they're not going to do that. So
it's also in their best interest not to do that.
Right. Exactly. Right. So like, that's kind of an obvious one, but then you also have to kind of read between the lines. I will never, ever, ever, ever think it is a good thing when somebody says, do what's best. When you hear the thing, do what's best for your family, start looking. Like, when they start floating those kinds of little things out, that is always a death knell. That means your job is not assured. I've heard it like 3 times. First time I didn't know what it was. Second and third time, I got what I get. It was good. So no, yeah, that overarching theme is that everything is fine. This is great. We're all a family, and they all do it. it's just how it is.
We're all family, but it would be unfortunate if something was to happen, like you didn't have a job anymore here.
Yeah, like you fell off the back of a truck, or
Yeah.
we pushed you off the back of the truck.
Maybe you put these cement shoes on and walk off that bridge yourself.
And again, at this point, I will interject that while I gave this caveat before we went live of while I do seem very negative, I don't want to scare. I don't want people to pet it too late. This is a game, right? It is all a game of chess. It is a game of strategy, and if you can figure out how to play it, you might still get beaten. But there are ways to get beaten less bloody
and
if you just panic and make rash decisions.
Does it go the same for those companies that wanted to be acquired?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't care who you are, if you want to be acquired and you get acquired, right? I don't care if you're in your Series B or if you're Series Z, like whatever it is, though that company that is acquiring you, they own you now. Like you can have the best intentions, right? You can have the best bosses and leadership and like, this is great. We all knew this is what we wanted. This is our intention. Like the one company I went to, I knew it was their intention to get acquired. And I went anyway, because I already know what the game is. And I was in a position to take that gamble again. So why not? Like, I'll try it again. There is a very fun part of the startup culture and things like that. But with a very couple exceptions, and yet I'm still waiting to see what happens with them, because I still believe this, every startup wants to get acquired, right? At some point, you might have the best intentions and the best, like, we will always be our own thing and blah, blah, blah. You're going to get picked up. But then the reality hits of like, oh, this person's redundant, or oh, this tech, we don't need this part, so now we don't need those people. The road to being reduced in force is paved with good intentions. So yeah, and I to an extent I do feel for those leaderships, right? They built this thing, and good for them. They're getting paid off of it. They do care very much. But at the end of the day, it's all a business. Like, nothing about it is personal. And if you do get riffed, if you do get laid off, if you get whatever, it's probably somebody with a spreadsheet, never met you, never had a problem with you, but you make too much money, or you are a duplication of effort from somewhere else in the company. And that's just the way that goes. So I always stress to keep your eyes open.
Right. So, so Ms. Berlin, you work, you're working with a bunch of customers. You must get organizations that are saying, well, we're being acquired by X. What is the process to integrate, detection mechanisms or, security controls on an acquired or an acquiring company? What happens if the acquiring company finds out, oh, this services, that we're buying with this company is actually better than the one we have? Have you ever had anything like that, where it's like, we're going to convert 8,000 machines over to a new system, or, why are we using you? And then you have to explain why this company is a good deal.
Yeah, a couple times. I mean, not so much currently with Blumira, but at other places that I've worked for, I've had to not only that, but also like in-depth, like very quick log analysis to tell them if this company that they are still in contract with has been breached or is in the has really bad stuff going on. Like, we've had to do that before, which is okay. I mean, that's, at that point, it's like proving a negative, right? You're like, I don't know, I can't find anything.
Right.
That due diligence, that's a son of a gun.
Right. Like, I mean, here's the things that are wrong that we can see based off of the logs that we have gotten, but like, is this, like, you have no like visibility, right? You're like, I mean, you don't know what you're getting logs on and what you're not. And like that whole thing is really, really weird. And then, I mean, I've had customers of mine acquire other companies, which the most notable ones that I can think of is when I was still doing like network security stuff. And it was just like double natting stuff because everyone uses 192.168.
Any man.
Yeah.
And just trying to make all of the firewalls work across, all of their multiple acquisitions that had to maybe talk to each other. And it was, a nightmare.
There's a really good point, because I actually happened to talk, and I'm not going to quote her by name because I'm not sure if she'd be cool with that, but this is really good advice. There's somebody that I do work with at my present gig who is in charge of a lot of this, like architecture, compliance, M&A type things. And I was like, hey, we were talking about other things, but I was like, while I have you on, I'm going to be talking to Brakesec, and since you do some M&A stuff, I was like, what are some of the most, are there any common things to watch out for technology wise? Like what, like during that process, is there something you see every single time? And as far as like the integration part of it, she said, and she's like, this happens every time. Day one hits. And so day one is when the announcement is made, right? And when the public hears about it, I mean, this has been going on for months, if not a year or whatever. Day one hits, they get announced. Whoever the project manager was for doing the due diligence just disappears. Wow. Right. And like the integrations don't happen. He had a spreadsheet. They had a spreadsheet somewhere. And Amanda's taking her hoodie off. Yeah, I didn't. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. And so the PM just disappears, and now this thing that is now legally binding, and it happens, like the person who knew where all the bodies were buried, they just screwed off and went somewhere else. So I thought that was a very telling thing, and that's a question I wanted to ask her. She had also mentioned things about like, now you have to look under the rug, right, to see what's being swept there. Right. Looking at their processes and their practice and their tooling, things like that. And then you have things like, what are they using for like to be productive? Slack, email, Gmail, Jira, whatever. And how do those things get mixed? But yeah, I thought it was very funny and very sad that she was like, the PM just always screws off, and just now everything's done. Yeah.
I think that's important to ask. If you're the conquering company, in this case, it's not a good way to say it, but if you're acquiring a company, what are some of the things that you as a counterpart being in security should be looking at the other company in terms of security? Oh, Mr. Betcher's slowly raising his hand.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you asking companies, Mr. Betcher, about when they're being integrated?
Well, we do this every time that we can. If they're largely a cloud company, we can't do this, but we'll put a sniffer on their network, and we'll put a firewall there in between. And then we will largely insert ourselves into their network traffic. And we have rules that we put in place, like, okay, we don't do business with certain countries or certain IPs. We'll have a blacklist on whatever, threat intel, things like that. So then we'll put a intrusion detection system there and see if we can, catch anything on the network level. And often we do. So that's the first step, is to see that north-south traffic.
Okay. So I know this sounds rhetorical, but how important is it to get access to their documentation, assuming they have any?
So important.
So important. Okay. So, I mean, what kind of things are we looking for when we ask, hey, we would like to see all of your documentation, all your processes, all your configs, your configuration management? I mean, are those, how important are those for, making sure that integration is going well? Or, we don't have asset management, we're all in the cloud or whatever, or, what if they're using technology that you've never used before? What if they're a Kubernetes heavy, organization, and you've been a physical data center up to this point? What is important? And I'll ask Mr. Betcher and then Danny and Ms. Berlin in that order. How important is that?
It's pretty important. I like to see their policies. What is their security policy? Do they even have one? I've gotten a lot of pushback before, like, well, we have X, Y, and Z on every such and such computer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, show me your policy. And then I never get it. And then come to find out, well, they don't have that. It was just all hot air. So
Right.
yeah, I'd like to see the policies up front. And then, if they don't show me those policies and they push back on whatever kind of security enhancements that we want to place in that company, then I tell them to, show me what policy you have that takes care of this particular issue. So that's important to me.
Okay. Danny, how about you?
I mean, yeah, it's it really goes well to be like, show me all the things that you have. And like, I don't want that fire hose, but like, I will. I think it's super. I'm not gonna guess, right? Like, I'm not gonna just be like, well, it probably works like this, or like like as Brian had mentioned, going in somewhere during that due diligence and putting some tech out there and seeing what's there. But it is that institutional knowledge that you want to soak up as much as you can before the attrition happens, before the dumpster fires start. So like, I would much rather do documentation. Is great, but we all know we all suck at it. Nobody's really great at it. Even the aforementioned company I mentioned before, yeah, they might pride themselves on being great, but there's 25 different versions. So I need the guy or the person who knows where the bodies are buried, or who has the right version numbers. I will take a direct conversation to the people who live the life in that company over a piece of paper any day. I have a thing now. I will ask for a meeting. I will ask if your calendar is up to date. I will tell you I need 30 minutes of your time. I want to talk to you. And from that, hopefully there's some documentation or whatever, or that conversation now becomes my own documentation. I tend to go to the people first, depending on how the things are going. You may have to ask a few times. You may have to start copying people on that email to do that whole, I was being nice, but now there's a CC in here. So yeah, documentation super important depending on the things that I'm looking at, but I'd much rather talk to the person and start, because that works two ways. One, you get the institutional knowledge, and two, you start building a relationship with these people.
Right.
So that at least they know who you are. They know that you're working the same way that they are. You're not personally screwing them. Leadership might be doing it, but you're not doing it. So
Right.
that becomes very important to the overall success.
Okay. Miss Berlin, go ahead.
I've never been in that situation before. So I'm just going to defer to them because I've never had to worry about looking at anybody's policies or anything.
Right. So one of the things that I was thinking of, Danny had mentioned, getting down and talking to people, depending on how senior you are in the organization, if you're an analyst or, you've got even a low level kind of manager thing, those kinds of conversations for me would seem to be fairly important, because what if your management comes back and goes, hey, I know you've been working a lot with the team over there. Are there, who's the talented people? Who are the folks that, are worth saving in this case? Because, don't tell them, but yeah, shit's going to go down where, we're going to have to
always does
potentially some people go. So I think, if you can, build a rapport with those folks, you can find out who actually the SMEs are. You can, we may have headcount that we may need to, make our own changes. It's like, oh, well, maybe we can get rid of 3 or 4 on our end and pick up some talented people on that end. Or, if they have a technology that we're not familiar with, we may need to hire some of those folks. I know that I used to work at a company with Mr. Betcher that had physical data centers. If we had acquired a company that was completely in GCP, we might have been put on the bread line, and they might have been hired because they're going to be, converting us all over to Kubernetes or something like that. You have to think long-term like that, because one, you may be managing those people. There may be opportunities for you to go up in the organization. Also, not having documentation. I know not everybody has documentation, and it is, latent knowledge or knowledge that I'm trying to get away from using the term tribal knowledge, because I don't like the term so much. It's a 4-letter word for me because every organization I've been to has it. And that just means that they use it as an excuse to not document anything. So, not having that and getting those down in terms of playbooks, getting, interviewing those folks and finding out playbooks for integrations or, little gotchas that we're going to need to know about, like, oh yeah, that server runs in Windows NT. We use it for, the badge system in the building and we can't upgrade that. And, these are things that we're going to need to know about later because, even the most minor of systems that they use may or may not be around. And, all of a sudden they can't get into their office one day, when everything goes back to normal because, the NT box is no longer working or, we need these licenses. So yeah, I would definitely think that this would be an opportunity for leadership in this case where you could actually say, hey, Jeannie's great. She was excellent. She was able to walk me through all these processes. We actually sat down and wrote down a playbook on how we would integrate these systems. She's definitely somebody we want to keep, but the other guy running help desk, yeah, he was okay, but he was gone most of the time, or something like that. Or, try to remain objective, but, just try to, be real about your experiences with those folks. Cause you may be actually saving them from, being unemployed in many cases. So
yeah, and that's also a great point for the people being acquired. You have to make a decision. My entire career is based around being almost overly empathetic. We are all going through this thing together. There is underlying all of the shiny BS and business things. It is a very human experience. So either get on board or don't, right? Like if you hope to keep your gig, like here is your new reality. It is amazing what a human condition can get used to, right? No matter how big the fire is. So like just work at it. You never know who's watching, and then maybe it doesn't matter. Like, but at least you tried, right? So there it is very important to keep your wits about you, as you said, Brian. It is a long con, right? You are before I mentioned this already. My experience, nothing hits the fan until at least 9 months, right? 6 to 9 months. 6 start hearing rumblings. 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a long time. So play the game, like be smart about it, and don't be a jerk.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is
if you're on the C-suite though, maybe not the CEO, but just under him, you're probably on the chopping block. But if you're on the C-suite, then you can probably get another job relatively quickly, I guess.
You're probably buying another ski chalet. Like, good for you.
Yeah, in that case, you're expecting to be on the chopping block. Like, know your time is limited in most of those.
But for the rank and file, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a while before any shit hits the fan like that.
But when it does hit, it goes very quickly. Like, as soon as that chum is in the water, like, hold on tight. And hopefully you built that support wall behind you. Because once it comes, and stuff starts moving pretty quick.
Yep.
And that support wall, usually the acquiring company has a lot more resources, a lot more job openings, things like that. And if you can insert yourself into the mothership somehow, then you're in a better position when that 9-month hits.
Yeah.
That was our show for this week. You can find show notes for this and all of our shows at www.breakingsecurity.com. You can also find an RSS link on the site to add to your favorite podcatcher. You can find all of us on Twitter. Miss Berlin can be found at InfoSyster, INFOSYSTIR. Mr. Betcher can be found at BetcherPwned, BOETTCHERPWNED. And you can follow me on Twitter at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. We have a Slack. Come join us on our Slack. A lot of great things going on there. A lot of channels of various InfoSec-related subjects. You can get an invite on Twitter by emailing our official Twitter handle for the show at Brakesec, BRAKESEC, or you can email us at bds.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for their monetary assistance by offsetting costs involved in putting out a weekly show. Zoom fees, Libsyn hosting, domain purchase, renewal, equipment upgrades, time and effort building the community we have. We appreciate all of your help and support. If you'd like a t-shirt, stickers, coffee mug, or just to show your support for the show, you can check out our TPub site, www.tpublic.com/user/BDS podcast. We thrive on your feedback. A quick 5-star comment on iTunes or Google Play Store or your favorite streaming service, Spotify, Pandora, what have you, go a long way to gaining us additional visibility. It takes no time at all, and we appreciate your help in spreading the word. That was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Be safe, be well, be kind to one another, take care of yourself because you're the only you have, and we'll talk to you again soon.